Welcome, everybody, to episode 190 of the You Can't Comp This NBA Trading Card Podcast. We are your hosts, Adam, Amy, and Russell Gibson, and we're not going to start off on a positive note at all. We're going to start on a negative note.
Yeah.
Victor Wembanyama is out for the season.
Bit of a Debbie Downer, really, isn't it, to start off the show?
Is that more shocking than Luka going to the Lakers?
No, I think Luka going to the Lakers is more shocking because, a professional athlete getting a injury, that's not that shocking.
I think the type of injury is the one that's shocking me and has me unnerved.
Okay. What makes you feel unnerved by that?
I don't think it's an easy stay at home, it'll get better kind of fix. That's my concern. This could plague him for his whole career.
Yeah.
It's one of those, I don't know, not like a silent assassin, but it's not a broken leg that's blatantly obvious. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, that'll just heal itself.
Yeah.
When is this problem going to pop its little head up again? Yeah, I get that 100% too.
Yeah, and look, we've been down and I'm not comparing, this is chalk and cheese, but we've been down the Zion path where we've had this great prospect, dominant, and then just injured, and how that's impacted things. And now we've had a season and a bit of Wemby. Like, the guy was just an all-star, and I don't like this. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah, so maybe we should take 2 steps back and just summarize
what's actually happened to him.
Yeah, because I think sometimes we do sometimes get ahead of ourselves sometimes, but that's okay. This is how we roll here.
Catch everybody up. It's fine.
Alrighty, so he's got a blood clot in his shoulder.
Yep.
And so there's different names for blood clots, but one of the names you can use and has been used for this is deep vein thrombosis. So that's probably something that people might be familiar with if you're flying on a plane. That's one of the risks that you can get from that. I was talking to a couple of people about this, asking them, what's the cause of this? Because in my head, this is not the first time we've seen it for an NBA athlete. So there's been a couple. There's been Chris Bosh.
That's the concerning bit for me.
Brandon Ingram, and there's been one of the Thompson twins, which is pretty sure it was Azure that had it.
Yeah,
and so it can really go 2 ways. You get treatment for it, and then everything's good. Or in the instance with Chris Bosh, he actually needed to be on blood thinners long term, and then the problem that he had, and that what really slowed down his career, was that he couldn't fly anymore because that was just increasing his risk of having it reoccur.
That's where my concerns lie. I
guess.
Yeah,
for sure. And this is the thing, isn't it? So it's kind of like the fork in the road. So he either he gets treatment for it, and then they sort him out, and then he comes back just like Ingram's done. There's been no recurring issues for him, and it can be a freak thing. It can just be like a one-off thing, or it is the Chris Bosh thing where they're on blood thinners for the rest of their lives. They can't fly. And then the other thing I'd probably worry about too is like they're playing this high-octane, high-impact sport. So what would the impact on your body be of being on blood thinners, for the rest of your life? So that's probably where I'm sitting with this at the moment. So it really is, a wait-and-see situation. And if you're sort of looking even, bigger picture again, it's a real time of transition for the Spurs at the moment, because Coach Popovich just said that he's going to be stepping away from the Spurs also, and he won't be returning this season. So it really is like a changing of the guard for the Spurs.
There's a lot happening. I don't know. I feel like it's sad news, one, in the fact that you've seen what the Spurs have been doing, and then through the trade period, they kind of pushed their chips into the middle by acquiring Fox, because that was a real we're ready move.
Yeah.
And then to have this happen, I think, is bitterly disappointing. I mean, the conspiracy theory is they're just trying to really mega tank to get themselves back into the Cooper flag sweepstakes. But
yeah, 100%. So let's take that sort of cup half full view, and I've got something else to support that in 2 seconds, but let's dive into that conspiracy theory about them getting ping pong balls. They've done it before with David Robinson, where they held him out even though he was healthy to come back. Yeah. And that got them Tim Duncan.
Yep.
And so I would definitely not put it past the Spurs to do it to Wemby so they can get Cooper flag.
Well, you look at their record at the moment, right? There's 30-something games left in their season, and they're below 500.
Yeah. I feel like, to me, the Spurs are in the worst possible place where they're not good enough to be a genuine finals team or a genuine playoffs team, but they're
Yeah.
definitely not good enough to get, sorry, that's not the
Not
right
bad
wording.
enough to get
They're
the
not bad enough to get the number one pick in the draft. However, the way that they've flattened out all the draft odds now, you don't have to be the worst team in the league to get the
just
most
one
amount
of
of ping
them.
pong balls. You said it'd be like, top 3 worst teams. So,
Yeah.
that's kind of good. So this is coming from the current head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. Now, I think we should probably introduce this gentleman too. This is Mitch Johnson. The Spurs remain optimistic Wembanyama will make a full recovery by the beginning of the 25-26 season. Said the team's medical staff have said that the Frenchman's long-term health won't be affected by his setback. The medical experts and the people that are smarter than everybody in the room have said and confirmed that he'll be done this year, and there is no concern for Victor's long-term health personally or anything related to his basketball activities. So I think a statement like that is actually, it's very strong, isn't it? I feel like that
It's a very strong statement.
that to me puts a lot of things to bed in terms of they've consulted all the right people. This is not just something that's coming, internally. And this is something also too that they can move on from and start planning for, the right pieces. And so, and again, if we're going back full circle, so, zoom out a little bit, this is where the Kawhi Leonard relationship went bad with the Spurs, because he was getting internal doctors to assess him and look at him.
Yeah.
And allegedly they asked him to come back before he was right to. And that's sort of what has created some of his long-term injuries things. If Google the Kawhi Leonard San Antonio Spurs riff, and a lot of that was to do with their inside and him not being able to use outside doctors. So actually for me, I think that's a really interesting one where they're like, we're not going to use inside doctors for this. We're going to use the smartest people we can get our hands on and then, get this taken care of properly. So
I'm very curious about injuries like this, and I called it. We'll call it an injury, but any medical condition like this, it's the management of it. So my question becomes: what work can he do? What work can't he do?
Yeah.
While he's not playing competitively, like playing on the court, is he allowed to train to an extent? Is he allowed to keep healthy with other areas? Or is it a lay off everything for a period? Do you know what I'm like? It's,
I get what you're saying.
How do you treat this? Because any kind of
no, I've got zero insights on that at all.
I mean, God, even it doesn't matter what kind of experiences you've had around it. As we've just identified, they're all different treatment pathways, and it can go different. So the question is, when is he back on the court? It might not affect him long term, but not doing any conditioning for 12 months might actually have a huge impact on him.
So it's going to be less than 12 months because they said he's going to be ready for the start of next season. Yeah.
So what are we? We're in February now, so it's 8 months.
Can I be honest with you? I actually don't think that's an issue at all. I think they'll space him out for the right amount of time after his surgery.
I don't think
keep an eye on his bloods.
The Luka weight discussion is going to come into things, but
he's the opposite, right? You kind of wish he would put on a bit of weight.
Put on a couple of kilos. But it's the being match fit, it's the conditioning, it's the But when do you go? When can you go?
Yeah. I feel like that something like that they'll be able to manage pretty good.
It'll be interesting to see.
I think the first thing we've covered is obviously the conspiracy around the ping pong balls. I don't think we need to go into that, but there is a little bit of other fallout that's going to happen here. So the next one to talk about is Defensive Player of the Year.
Yeah, that's league wide. That's not just the Spurs organization.
So absolutely. So we can probably thread this into the conversation now. So how that works in terms of league awards, you have to play X amount of games to get that award. He doesn't now qualify for that because he won't be playing for the rest of the season. So initially you would argue that he was an absolute shoo-in to win the award. And if he had played the number of games, I would have absolutely voted for him as Defensive Player of the Year. Like, I actually think it's so hard for me to actually comprehend who is the second best defensive player in the league now. In my head, he's so impactful on the defensive end. Like, as much as Luke can change a game offensively, and same as LeBron and Jokic. Jokic, I should definitely say that too. That's how I feel about Wemby on the defensive end. He's so intimidating and scary, I think is the best way to say it. So So why don't we talk about that? Why don't we thread that in next? So who's going to win Defensive Player of the Year now?
I think we've both got a couple of interesting options.
Who do you think's going to win
I made a bit of a quip and suggested that Australia's own Dyson Daniels would be thrust into the arena. Look, um, he hasn't been the Great Barrier Thief that he was aptly nicknamed earlier in the season as things have progressed. But yeah, definitely a defensive player of the year candidate, I think.
He is absolutely going to be a candidate. So if you look at his steals totals at the moment, like the difference between first and second is 50 steals. And another way of saying that is he is 50% ahead of the second closest person. So it's
what Wemby is in blocks, Dyson Daniels is in steals.
Yeah. So Daniels has got 152 steals. SGA second with 101, and third is Nikola Jokić with 91.
That's hilarious.
Like the difference there.
The fact that Jokić is in the top three there is terrifying, right?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just says so much about how he just reads the game. And
yeah, true.
Yeah. And so there was another statistic floating around that when Chris Paul led the league in steals, he didn't have that many steals at that point in the season. Like that's how far ahead Dyson Daniels is, compared to everyone else. So I think that look, that's a really good one. I think he should be considered absolutely
in the conversation,
top. Then this is really difficult too. So it's how do you measure? It's so hard to measure people's defensive ratings. You can't just go by blocks. Like so, number one in blocks is Wemby at 176. Number two is Brook Lopez at 106. I don't think anyone is going to be voting for Brook Lopez as defensive player of the year. Third is Walker Kessler. Then you're going down Daniel Gafford, Anthony Davis. And probably the one that I had off the top of my head was Jaren Jackson Jr. I think defensively, he's really solid, but does he have enough numbers to sort of support that unless people are going to look at those?
But it's team impact, right? Like there's team defense and anchoring a team defense.
There's advanced stats you can look at too, definitely.
I think you've got a very very good point there about Triple J. Like I think Dyson Daniels is a great candidate because he's that far ahead, Wemby level ahead when it comes to steals, which is obviously the other metric. But if you look at how good the Memphis Grizzlies have been this year, and for a team that's sitting so high up, they've gone right under the radar, and he's a definite reason for that.
Yeah, I think the radar thing's an interesting one, just because are they that under the radar, or is it just that they haven't had the same amount of clicks this year because Ja Morant hasn't been there?
Well, Ja has been there. He just hasn't been threatening to shoot people. Wielding guns on IG and all the rest of it. That said, going back, looks like Ja has learned his lesson to that extent.
Yeah.
And as a result, we've got this Memphis team.
I mean, we haven't done a heap of prep on this, so I think this is a pretty superficial conversation. But at the same time, I think your Dyson Daniels call is actually spot on, isn't it? Like, the more I look at this list and then you look at the steals list, like, that is just insane. And now Wemby's out of the conversation. It's like, it makes it really tough not to look at Dyson Daniels straight away, doesn't it? So, look, not that we advocate for gambling and, have any gambling ties at all, but geez, you have to look at the odds for Dyson Daniels at this point, don't you?
Get on
Defensive
Dyson.
Player of the Year.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, we haven't talked about card values yet, which is very much against the vein of this podcast. So let's just do 1 or 2 minutes on this, then we'll go to an ad, and I think we should come back and talk a little bit more Wemby ad, because I think this is a really big deal, and we should probably break this down as much as we need to.
Yeah, agreed.
All righty, he's silver PSA 10.
Yep.
Population on this is 4,294. That is just on PSA. That doesn't include BGS and all the rest of it. It last sold for 728. Now, if you zoom to 1 year, it is down significantly. It's down 67%. So we're already seeing, before all of this happened, we're already seeing a massive downturn. Now, also part of that is it exponentially went down. So at one point, it was trading for 2,400. And then it trended down to about 9,500, and it was pretty steady along that. If you zoom into the last 3 months, actually it's been very steady, minus 5%. Yes, it's down a little bit, but it was also up in that time period too. Zoom to 2 weeks, this is where it's really interesting. So it's down 13% in the last 2 weeks. But if you zoom in even closer to that, so you look at the last 6 sales, so it was $849. So that's not that far away from that $950 that we were speaking about not that long ago.
Yeah.
Now, sold for $849, then $817, $800, $765,
Yeah.
$728, and now $700. So that is a very steep downward decline in a very short period of time.
But that's a stabilizing impact, right? Surely it's just
Yeah.
about the card stabilizing and finding its spot.
Let's take a break, and then we'll come back and we'll break this down further.
Yeah, let's do it.
Alrighty, thank you so much to our sponsor, Fast Break Trading Cards. I think we should also announce at this point in time, Fast Break Trading Cards are coming back on board for another round of sponsorship. So from Adam and I to Alvaro and John, thank you so much for your support,
Really
keeping our
appreciate
lights
it.
on,
Yeah.
enabling us to do some things in the background that we wouldn't otherwise been able to do for the podcast. It means the world to us. And in addition to that, we're so glad that we are a partner with you, because the way that you run your business, you have your shop, that you do things, it's just the way a hobby shop should be run.
Yeah.
Check the guys out at fastbreaktradingcards.com. From there, you'll be able to see all of the different things they have for sale. Also, Friday 12 till 6, Saturday 9 till 5, Sunday 10 till 4. Visit them at 75 Tulip Street in Cheltenham. Alternatively, call them on 0399 68 550. That is where you can find them out. Now, let's go to pre-orders. It's always good to look into the future in terms of pre-orders.
Having a Luke Longley into the future.
Absolutely. There's nothing NBA here, but also, too, there's nothing wrong with talking about some different things. And I think a couple of these things, Adam, you're going to be interested in. 2024 Topps Chrome Garbage Pail Kids Volume 7. Value Blaster Box for $40. The Hobby Box for $125. Now, this is the one I want to talk to you about. 2025 Topps Finest X-Men 97 Hobby Box for $350. I actually remember the original ones of these selling in my local card shop. It was actually like a news agents, and they had like a little container sort of like off to the side, which they sold cards in. And the Wolverine with the red background, I still remember that vividly. So I'm not going to lie to you, I'm not the biggest like Topps X-Men fan in the world, but there's also that nostalgia for me, even for me. So I feel like these are going to go absolutely crazy.
Yeah. The X-Men are huge.
Yeah, I think the last one just to really quickly talk about here is the 2023-24 Topps Midnight Basketball Hobby Box. That is $550 on pre-order.
I thought that was a Star Trek product then.
It looks Star Trek-ish, doesn't it? 2 of their pre-orders completely sold out. Magic the Gathering sold out, and also the Final Fantasy Magic the Gathering Commander Deck Display Collector Edition sold out. So congrats, lads, for selling out your allocation on that on pre-order. That is absolutely fantastic. Again, thank you so much to Fast Break Trading Cards for your support. Adam, we're back. How you doing? Part 2.
I'm great. I'm ready to talk some card values and some. Let's deep dive this.
We were breaking down the Wemby PSA Silver 10. We were just saying that the last 6 sales are on a steep downward decline.
Yeah.
And you were saying that it's too soon to talk about it. I would 100% disagree with that. I think these are panic sales. I think we're going to see.
Really?
I think we're going to see a lot of this, man. Because, okay, this is how I view this. I put this into the same bucket as Ja Morant. I put this into the same bucket as Zion Williamson, right?
Zion, okay.
So these aren't particularly people who are PCing them. They aren't people who are collectors per se. They're more the piece of the hobby parcel that I talk about here is, you want to call them flippers. You want to call them people who are in for buying and selling liquid cards. Investors, 100%. And by the way, I'm not saying this to diss on people. It's just basically they're all part of the hobby community, the hobby, pool. And they're very important to the pool, by the way, too. You need people buying and selling cards. But I also think, too, the people that do that are also the people to more likely to sell the cards when they do see some bad news coming up, too.
Yeah, so true.
That's the way I perceive this card. And I think what we probably could do, too, Ad, is actually just go and have a look at some of the sales of Zion Williamson, because he had those injury reports. He had those times when he went down a lot too. And so I think that's a really good one for us just to quickly, touch on too.
Yeah, Zion, there's Cade. Cade got injured. They wrapped him up for the year.
Yeah, so okay, with the let's do the Zion one first, because I think the narrative behind Cade and Zion is actually 2 completely different stories. So and we can do both. I think that's really cool.
Hell yeah. All right. I've got the prism up. What are we looking at? The silver
Alrighty.
prism.
So if you go to Zion's all-time obviously he had that insane high of 5,800, and then you can see this incredibly steep downhill all the way down to $900. And so that basically took about 2 years to happen. And then from there, he had a further decline down, and he's really flattened out. So he's currently trading at 250. And so, I probably think what we're going to see we're going to see a decline here. So it went down to 1,500, and then it went further down again around to 670. So probably where my head is going with this is, okay, so currently we're trading at, actually not that far away from 670. We're already down to 700. Maybe this is going to go down to like 600, even to 550, and then it'll flatten out, and then we'll see what the next pricing is going to go to after that. The really interesting for me thing to think about here is that also the timing of this card too. So it's going to go down as the season progresses. Then we're going to go into the off season, which you often see a further down decline. Yeah,
but the speculation of him returning.
Yeah, and as it gets closer to the season, then we start to see the injury reports. Yes, he's coming back. He's training again, da-da-da-da-da. Yes, you'll start to see an uptick then. But I think in terms of timing this card and purchasing it, it would be around the finals. I think that's when you should be starting to look to purchase, because that will be like, the trough. Yeah. And it'll start to pick back up again. And so
end of the season, I think we missed the boat. I think if you wait too long after the announcement that he's resuming training, that's when the uptick's going to happen.
You'll definitely get an uptick there, but at the same time, that wouldn't stress me out a lot though.
Okay.
Like missing out. And the reason I say that is because the period of time to now to when that change will occur, like that's a long time. So, and actually that might be the better time, because in terms of you reliably being able to know, okay, great, this guy is coming back.
Yeah.
I feel more confident, putting cash into this guy.
Yeah, true.
That's the way I would sort of look at that too, Ad. So you actually might say that's the best time to purchase. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, very true. Very true. I think
if you think about it too, Ad, because like if you look at the all-time for Wemby, so what, he started off at 2,500. If you can pick that up for 400, 450, 500, 550 USD, like that's kind of exciting too. Like this is probably the way I'm looking at this. My sort of perception of this is we kind of know what's going to happen here. We know that heaps of people have bought these cards. We know that, it's going to go down, and people do panic sell. And, what's more important to me is like, is he going to be coming back? And when is the next time to purchase back into him? So why don't we talk about Cade a little bit? Because that was the other one that you were talking about.
I said Cade was wrapped up in cotton wool early on. So
yeah. So if you look at Cade, and really Cade dropped, I actually think Cade dropped for the wrong reason. So I think
I completely agree.
The speculation around Cade was that he was the number one pick and he was on a terrible team. And I think that's the thing that, did influence him. Yes, he did have an injury, but there was nothing to be said that injury wasn't recoverable and that he was coming back. So there was that window of time when he dropped down. So his silver PSA 10 at one point was selling for $220. So if you look at his all-time sale, it's basically like it's a U. Yes, it's a small U on the right-hand side. Like it hasn't come up that much, but it's now trading for $426. So if you pick that up for $220, like that's a pretty decent uptick.
Yeah, it's a huge gain. Yeah, you're right. And I think this is the glass half full side that we're talking about with if Victor Wembanyama is out for a little bit for the end of this year, they wrap him up in cotton wool, they make sure he rehabs correctly, he does all the medical stuff he's supposed to, and everything is good, he will uptick naturally.
But if we are tying that back to Cade, so actually Cade dropped down to 220.
Yeah.
So I was saying before, like 450, 500 is a good buy. So is there some reality where Wemby goes down to 220, 280?
I don't think there's enough time for that. I honestly don't think the height that Wemby got to versus the area Cade was in.
Yeah.
Probably not as a bigger scale. I also think there's a lot more people with money invested in Victor. Because you look at the pop count on Cade, 322 versus 4,294.
Yeah, okay. So probably my counter argument to that though is the billions of dollars that was lost on Zion.
True.
Right.
True.
Because I think
do people just dump stock now then?
Yeah. So like that was the problem with COVID, wasn't it? Is that people were buying in at astronomical prices into
because we were
arguably
never going to have cards again. I don't
that's
know
right.
why.
Yeah, that's right. And also like buying into people that, it was high risk, but you could also make the argument too that he was the wrong person to buy into. Like I think
Spot on.
if we go back and look at that class, actually Ja Morant was probably the better purchase.
Yep, definitely.
And then, we were so
blinded.
Blinded. I was trying to think of the right word. I was going to say mystified, but blinded is probably the better word. COVID was just such a horrible time, wasn't it? Like,
it was pretty bad.
It really, shook things up in a really negative way. All right.
The dark times.
What else do we need to talk about with Wemby? Actually, there is something else I want to talk to you about with Wemby. So I found this on Twitter at GameInjuryDoc. Two NBA players have upper extremity DVTs, Brandon Ingram in 2019 and Azur Thompson. I think I said Eamon before.
Yep.
They're both returned. This is not the end of Victor, but will need to be on blood thinners for at least 3 months. Okay, there you go. So that's basically a very quick synopsis, isn't it? There's other people who have also had blood clots in the NBA. Anderson Varejao, Chris Bosh, Jerome Kersey, Mirza Teletovic, who I'd forgotten about that one. Christian Koloko, he was 24 years of age when that happened. Azur Thompson and Wemby. Here you go. Yes, it's true that athletes are at high risk in general for blood clots due to their low resting heart rate, getting dehydrated during a game, and hopping on long flights. That's the one where I'm like, I find that so...
The travel is the concerning bit, right?
Yeah, but this is the bit that I find hard to work out in my head because like these guys are like the healthiest and the fittest players on the planet, yet they're still at risk for this. Like that, I find that so hard to sort of get over. Yeah.
But it's what they do to their body, right? So their dehydration, and if they don't hydrate properly, they put themselves at risk of blood clotting and...
that's right. Koloko, Thompson, and Wemby are all post-COVID vaccines, so it's a fair question to ask if that played a role. Wow, that's a Joe Rogan-esque take there.
Oh my goodness, get that conspiracy tinfoil hat out.
I wish I had my tinfoil hat, yeah. I find it concerning that we haven't had an increase in blood clot in young athlete over the past 5 years, and I don't think it's random. Yeah, I have to admit, like, that does seem to me... just seems unusual, doesn't it? But maybe it's also just the amount of like flying that these guys do. Like they do an insane amount of flying.
Being under that compression so regularly. Yeah.
Alrighty, it's time to go for a break. And this is where we thank our friends at the Melbourne Cartel. So please go to www.melbournecardtel, spelled tel.au. And from there, you'll be able to find a huge range of repacks, AFL, NBA, NFL, UFC, card grading, also card accessories, including GTI one touches, which have the penny sleeve inside the magnetic. They are absolutely
quality product.
My favorite type of one touches, the penny sleeve inside the magnetic. I think we should talk about NBA Hitman Series 5 repack. If you're interested in getting into NBA repacks, absolutely check these out. The other thing that we really love about these repacks too is the fact that they are 100% transparent with every single card that goes into the checklist. That was really important to us when we were joining Darren in our partnership. $35 for a repack. He works on a 1-in-4 ratio in terms of hits. Great value there. Now we also have to say a little bit of a sad goodbye, but also very much a huge thank you. This is the last advertisement we'll be running for the Melbourne Cartel. So Darren, we wish you all the best in the future. We'd like to thank you for all of your support, and we really do hope that sometime in the future we can
another opportunity to work together.
Regenerate our partnership, because it's been our absolute pleasure working alongside with you, and we wish you all the best in your future endeavors. Alrighty, Adam, we are back.
We're back.
We should discuss the ongoing theft issue in the Melbourne card collectible industry.
Yeah, these are the break-ins happening around Victoria, around Melbourne, outside Melbourne suburbs. Card stores being broken into.
Correct.
And being hit. We did believe there was some positive news there.
Well, actually, this week we've got to report good and bad news. So let's start with the good news. The good news is police have charged 2 men over a series of robberies at a collectible stores across Melbourne in recent weeks.
Excellent.
The police allege the men were behind a crime syndicate which used stolen cars to rob valuable trading cards from stores.
Yep.
The two men are being remanded to appear in Melbourne Magistrates Court later this year. Obviously, they're now out on bail and they're back out on the streets. There was no chance that would be put into jail immediately. The article goes through a lot of different things. It talks about the suburbs that they broke into: Epping, Moonee Ponds. Oh, I can't even say this one. Umengering. Interesting. They had their finger in a couple of other dirty pies too. They also were involved in stealing 6 cryptocurrency ATMs in Hoppers Crossings, Bentley, Brunswick, Werribee, and Vermont, using stolen cars. That's next level though, isn't it? Stealing an ATM.
Great. What the hell?
Yeah. Police executed search warrants in Reservoir, Coburg North, Greensboro, and South Morang, uncovering more than $50,000 in goods, including approximately $50,000 worth of collectible trading cards, including Pokemon, Disney, Lorcana, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Magic the Gathering, Dragon Ball Z, AFL, and NBA.
Yep.
5 stolen firearms, 100 alleged stolen car keys, ammunition, a peel press machine, and stolen power tools. I mean, you can't run a crime syndicate without having some power tools that you'll take down to cash converters, can you? Interestingly, it said approximately $50,000 worth of collectible cards has been recovered. And so that could be an underestimation by the police and the media, or it could be an overestimation by hobby shops reporting what was missing.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always that temptation to over-report on your insurance claims, isn't there? So I think that's going to be an interesting one to sort of like, I suppose it goes to proof of burden, doesn't it? Let's not dwell on that too long, though.
It's certainly... Well, it's good that we caught we caught the criminals, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Geez, they had a decent stash of other stuff though.
Yeah, that's right. They
run their own chop shop. What are they going to do? Trim cards with power tools?
Interesting to diversify out their criminal profile out so much, though, isn't it? Between drugs, stolen weapons, and Pokemon cards.
I'm surprised they didn't have any fake patch manufacturing stuff.
This is the part I did want to talk to you about. The police believe they have arrested the leaders of the criminal syndicate. We are confident that we've apprehended the main offenders who are sharing their criminal tradecraft with lesser offenders. Okay. And that makes sense a little bit. It's kind of like, the leaders at the front, and they've got all their little smurfs at the bottom. Police have also identified the lesser offenders supplying stolen goods and, more importantly, the Middle Eastern organized crime syndicates tasking the apprehended offenders. So if I'm putting on my criminal conspiracy hat right now and making outrageous headlines, you could say the proceeds of stolen Pokemon cards are now funding Middle Eastern terrorism. I think this is the first time we've made our show political.
my goodness.
It's only taken us 190 episodes.
I'd like to hope that's not happening. Oh God. The fact that they've apprehended what they hope is the leader, because there have been other break-ins. Is that correct? That was the next story. That was the bad news to go coupled with the good news.
Yeah, so basically, and then almost immediately afterwards.
Yeah, more.
This was posted to the Traders Australia, which is the shop that they've broken into. Sorry, everyone, will be closed on Friday as we've been broken into early this morning. Police investigators doing their thing. We have lots of camera footage. We've also recorded serial numbers of all the graded cards stolen. If you know anything, call Crime Stoppers. And they've got a lovely picture of the guy up there. But his face seems to be pretty well covered. I was actually hoping for a better picture on there of the picture of the guy. But yeah, it's the same MO, isn't it? They're coming in, just
bang, crash,
smash and grab stuff. There's nothing really updated in the comments about whether they've been caught or not in that post. So
yeah.
Look, hopefully this is the end of it, and it's not going to keep on happening, because it's definitely putting people on edge. And
it doesn't leave a nice taste in the mouth. I guess you just don't want. Anthony Milne just put in the chat, Kaboom's take a new meaning. Oh yeah, I hope they shut this stuff down soon, and I hope the stores aren't being targeted. And we can sort of move on from it. It's quite scary to have our small hobby impacted by criminal activities and the such.
Yeah, one thing that was said in the notes by the police is that actually the community has responded collectively quite well, helping each other out with identifying who it is, supplying information to each other, which is very much like a hobby thing. Like there's dedicated scammers pages within the hobby to support each other. So it's actually, that's a sort of interesting little tidbit on that, isn't it?
It's positive, right? It's mega positive how much we come together as a community when things go wrong.
Final thoughts out on this, and then we'll move on.
My final thought is I hope this is the last we sort of touch on it, as far as I hope there are no more break-ins.
Yeah.
I hope we've
of course.
hit the end of it.
Alrighty, now we are going to completely go from bad news story to good news story. We are going to talk about our YouTube channel. So we have been running a promotion. Once we get to 150 subscribers, we're going to give away a box. We have run the randomization for that. If you'd like to watch the video on that, it is on our YouTube channel.
It's there.
We are currently at 159 subscribers. I think that's right.
168, actually.
168, even better, delicious.
Yeah.
Our winner is Pretz, Pretzx. Pretzx is our winner. So congratulations to Pretzx. Please DM us on Instagram or Facebook, whatever it is your favorite, your choice of that, and we'll organize to get that box shipped out to you ASAP.
Congrats. That's awesome. I mean,
huge congratulations.
Set our views on the next goal, the next giveaway.
Yeah, so I think that's the next thing we'll do in the next couple of weeks, isn't it? Organize our next little giveaway.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you so much to everyone who did jump into that. Probably just like one really quick note on that is you need to change your privacy settings on your YouTube account so we can see who it is, because unfortunately there was only like 50 people in the random. It wasn't the full.
Yeah, if it's an anonymous subscription, then we can't give you a box of cards.
Very difficult, yeah. So we do apologize for that. However, if you were in that group of people who had their settings not quite right, just quickly Google how to change that up. We did put something on socials, how to do that. They were desktop instructions, and don't worry, we'll run another promotion very soon, which will be included into that future promotion once you get your settings correct. So,
correct.
Alrighty, this is a little bit of news from a couple of weeks ago now, but it's something I definitely wanted to talk about. This is more than a couple of weeks ago now. ESPN is reporting that Sabrina Ionescu is joining the unrivaled 3-on-3 league. I think this is really exciting from the perspective of basketball, from my perspective, two different angles. One is just the sort of the general health of basketball, that there's another sort of small league coming up to give us entertainment, because I think there is a little bit of a opinion or a push is that actually the way that people like to play basketball, particularly on the street, is that you play 3-on-3. You don't play a full 5-on-5 game.
This is just a shortage of people.
Shortage of people. You don't have to run around as much. You know, your steps are a little bit more limited playing 3-on-3.
For sure. And
as you get older, that's really important. And so, and I think from the women's point of view, and this is what I really like about this too, it kind of is a fairer format that you would play women versus men. So I like that a lot. And where they could actually have the chance to excel and, and play really well in terms of like their shooting and passing and movement, all that type of stuff. So for me, this is super cool. I'd love to see Caitlin Clark in the middle of this. I think it's great that Sabrina's there, but at the same time,
get them all on board. Do you know what I mean? Like really, really pump up the sport. Yep.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think there's a little bit of talk locally that the NBL will be having some input into this too. I've got no idea, who will be inputting into that, but still, that's a super cool piece of information.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
I think the perfect time now is to talk about Caitlin Clark. There is more and more Caitlin Clark cards popping off at the moment. Prism has obviously just been released for WNBA. The pricing on that is higher again than NBA, so there is a huge amount of interest in this product.
Yep.
One card that I have got to talk to you about, this is on Instagram at Market Movers app. The first PSA 10 sale of Caitlin Clark's Kaboom. This is, Color Blast. This is her college Color Blast 2. It's sold for $2,500. Sorry, I lied to you. It's sold for $4,250, which is $2,500 higher than what a raw card sold for. So, we're talking about
Wow. Okay.
we're talking about popularity. We're trying to discuss here about women integrating into the sport, all that type of stuff.
Yeah.
It is like it's a really big deal. Another card here in terms of WNBA cards here, we got Caitlin Clark again. The 1/1 black finite PSA 10. This is from Select. It's that one that runs east-west. It's a sticker autograph, albeit it's PSA 10 1/1. It's sold for $36,000 USD. Like that's a huge card. I think if we're speculating on this in terms of how we comping this to Prism, I think we can probably do this next week or the week after once a few more comps come out. The 1/1 gold vinyl of Caitlin Clark at a Prism has been hit, so I suspect that's going to be sold within the next 1 or 2 weeks. It'll probably go to PSA first and then hit the market straight away. But if that's selling for $36,000, what's her Prism 1/1 got to be selling for? What, $70,000, $50,000, somewhere in that ballpark?
Crazy, isn't it? It's so good to see that these numbers coming out for WNBA cards.
Yeah, that's right. Yep. Alrighty, what else should we discuss next, Ad? What have we got here?
Well,
we've got an Allen Iverson card. Why don't we talk a little bit of AI?
Let's do that, and then we'll take a break. And shall we go into the? Now we're in the second half of the season. Maybe some award races.
Sure,
we'll do that.
All right,
cool. What's the Iverson card we've got?
So this is actually from Sports Cards and Nonsense. So a huge shout out to the lads at Sports Cards and Nonsense. You are the kings of sports card podcasting. Huge respect. Yeah. The 1997 Skybox EX from 2001. Now this is PSA 5. This sold for $700,000. Adam Gray has been doing a few posts on these sort of on and off over the years, talking about the importance of EXs. I don't think it's until you see sales like that that you then realize the importance of them. We talk about kabooms, we talk about case hits, and in this sort of modern era where there's case hits that sell for a couple of dollars in the instance of the glitter cards that are coming out of Don Russ Optic. When you see a card like this that PSA 5 selling for that huge dollars, it's an absolute eye opener, isn't it?
It's crazy. I'm trying to understand which card it is because this is a numbered one, isn't it?
It's the Essential Cred. If that's what is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just trying to look at the back of that image just to see if the card was actually
numbered. Oh yeah, the image is so
it looks like it's numbered to 3, but
maybe that's what it is, man. Too.
Yeah, because I'm like, hang on, what? Because it's the credential side of it.
Yeah, you're right. It only has 3 copies.
There are only 3 copies.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, anyway, I've got a Kobe, and I didn't pay anywhere near that amount of money for it, but it's definitely not numbered.
Good pickup, mate. I'm glad that you pointed that out. That was that is actually an important piece of information. Yeah.
Numbered to 8. Anthony Milne said in the chat. It's funny.
There might be one numbered to 8, but in this particular one, it's definitely numbered to 3. And
that's 3. The Kobe there might be a Kobe numbered to 8. That'd be dope. Anyway, be crazy.
A few more people making the comments here. So this is from Jamie Castaneda. They were numbered by the number in the set. So credentials now is numbered to 3. His credentials numbered to 80, or just the opposite of the run. So, and another comment in here basically saying this is just a group of collectors who's trying to buy up as many of these as they can. So it's like a small group of collectors basically bidding up against each other to pick these up. Look, I don't have a problem with that at all. I think if that's what you want to collect and you see the rarity in it, obviously all powers to you. But if that's what the Iverson's selling for, what's the Duncan going to go for? What's the Kobe going to go for? That would be.
Yeah, I can imagine the Kobe going for.
Alrighty, break time, Ed.
All right, last break of the show, even though it feels like we've had a few today.
Thank you to our sponsors at ussportscardsaustralia.com.au. Thank you to Ross and Michael for all of your support. If you go to their website, you can check out a whole range of products for sale, sports breaks, check out My Cards Australia, singles categories, collectible protection, hobby boxes, sports memorabilia, and toys. Now, I think the one thing that we should talk about, and we should continue pushing this forward because it's something that Ross is absolutely passionate about, it's check out My Cards Australia. It's basically a consignment service where you submit your cards to Ross. Ross will list them onto the website. They're cross-posted across all these different platforms, eBay, a whole range of other ones too. He would then sell your cards on for you at the end of the month, send you out whatever money has come back into that. So very easy for you just to submit cards to Ross. He'll take care of all of the back end. We've all got boxes and boxes of cards sitting there just needing to be sold. This is the perfect way to unload some of your cards, get some cash back into your pocket, and continue on with your collecting journey. Thank you so much to team ussportscardsaustralia.com.au. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm ready. I'm ready for the final.
The home straight.
The home stretch. Yeah.
Yep.
We got plenty to talk about. We're in the second half of the season. Things that we're in the next couple of months, we're going to get down to the business end of things.
Yeah. So why don't we do a little bit of speculating here? Why don't you tell me your pick for the most valuable player? And then we can talk a little bit of card value on that. What have you got for me?
All right. So I'm hoping, knowing you, that you're seeing the shiny lights and the shiny new hotness. So I'm going to take the old school. I'm going to go with the old faithful. Nikola Jokić is winning his fourth MVP.
Okay. All right.
So I have a feeling you'll go with SGA.
No, that's fine. So why don't we do Jokić first, and then we can go into SGA, because I actually think both are very worthy candidates. And if either wins it...
Completely agree.
Yeah, if either wins it, I'm going to be totally fine with it. And I actually think it's going to be a really close vote this year, just for the fact that how well Jokic's playing, but how good Shea is playing.
Can I go conspiracy?
Yeah, go.
Theory?
Absolutely.
SGA doesn't get the MVP. Jokić gets it. And as a token of apology or whatever the league wants to do, they gift him Defensive Player of the Year.
Gift Shea?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a way of saying sorry, but Jokić is a freak of nature.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So I think where we should probably look at this is, if you want to talk about Jokić, we have to then zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because there's not that many players who have got 4 MVPs. We've got LeBron with 4.
Yep.
And then above that, you've got Jordan with 5.
Mm-hmm.
Kareem with 6.
Mm-hmm.
Wilt with 4. And Bill Russell with 5. Like, that's it. It's an insanely short list.
That's I think this guy is something we've never seen before. Nikola Jokić.
And actually, I want to do a timeless moments on this exact subject. So what is the impact, big picture, for someone that does win an MVP 4 times? And because we're at that point now where it's like you can actually have that conversation, and it's not outrageous to discuss this in sort of that context. So yeah, look, let's talk a bit about pricing, because his pricing at the moment is just insane. So for a silver PSA 10, the population on this is 180. So if we're making comparisons to another big man at the moment, we've got Wemby with a population of 4,000 plus. So there is a significantly less number of cards here. It last sold for 3,200. And if you're zooming in for this the last 2 weeks, let's go to the last 3 months. It is up 14% just then. So in terms of looking at that on the all-time scale, it looks like quite a sharp uptick there.
Yeah.
Interestingly, it's actually been higher than this at different points, even in the last 12 months. So it's actually on a little bit of a down. Now it's ticking, right back up again. The all-time high of this was 6,000, and then it sort of traded around that 3,000 to the sort of 2,700 mark, and it's definitely upticking back up again at 3,200.
Yeah.
I mean, looking at that pattern, as much as I want to get one of these into my collection, it doesn't make me all filled with warm and fuzzies to buy it. Like he is really up and down. I feel like he sort of goes up to that sort of 3,500 mark, and then he sort of, trickles back down again. So
yeah.
I'm not super compelled right now to go out and, drop money into this guy, particularly on a silver.
Yeah, that's fair. Agreed.
I think the one that I'm most interested in, honestly, is the Ruby. I really see a lot of value in this. And the reason I say that is because it's numbered to 350. The population on the 10 is 69, and the price on that is 2,400 currently. The sale before that was 2,700. So let's just say we split the middle and it's, 2,005,
Yeah.
2,550, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think when you direct comp that to the silver, I find it really difficult to pay, more money for a card that's unnumbered, if that makes sense.
No, I completely agree. I think it's a great call.
Yeah. But I really think we're at that point in time, though, where we can actually look at this and say, okay, can we comp this to LeBron James? Can we comp it to Jordan? Can we comp it to Kareem, Wilt, and Bill Russell, and sort of plot out those 6 cards and then say, where does Jokic fit into that, graph there? Because, there's just not that range of people that it's a very, very short sentence of people when we're, reading it all out.
Yep. I think the only thing missing from Jokic's resume, because you really should have a couple in the bag by now.
Yeah, that's the difference between these guys, isn't it? You've got obviously LeBron with enough championships. You've got Jordan, who is the modern leader in NBA championships. You've got Kareem, that was obviously, very successful in his career.
Yeah.
Wilt won 1 championship, and then how many did Russell get? Like 13 or something?
Yeah, it was crazy. Like he's the most winning player in sports. But he, you're right. He's there stuck with Wilt with 1.
So my pick for MVP though is actually Shea, and the reason I say that is because the more I watch the Thunder play basketball, and I'll admit I've definitely been watching a bit more Thunder lately, is the more I actually think that this is now the modern NBA, where you just put 5 players out on the court. There's no real rhyme or reason in terms of height and weight, which is something I feel like we really emphasized, particularly in the 90s, where it was like a shooting guard is 6'6", a small forward is 6'8", your power forward is 6'10", your center is 7 foot tall. Like the Thunder aren't like that at all. And the other thing that, I think if you're using the Thunder as a role model for other teams and how that basketball should be played, like just say you said, this is the blueprint for basketball. Their defensive rotations are very unique. I think there's not that many teams that play the way that they do defensively.
Yeah.
I think they're really well organized, but also their flexibility and their way that they can switch. I don't think I can teach basketball well enough to actually comprehend all of their defensive schemes, but I feel like I've got enough there to be like, yes, I can really see like what they're trying to do here. The way that they hedge, the way that they use their positional like versatility to actually cover people. It really is, exceptional. And I think I hate to keep going back to that Andrew Bogut thing where he was like, every team in the league plays the same. All they do is shoot 3-pointers. It's like, have you watched the Thunder play basketball? Like they are absolutely not settling for 3 points. Yeah,
No.
like it's a big part of their offense and they use it to spread the court, but they also play off each other in such a clever way. And then defensively, like they're so clever the way that they play and the way that they use their defense to fuel their offense. Like it's just, they play such a good brand of basketball. I think the way I feel about the Thunder is the way I felt about the Warriors in their prime.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's the biggest compliment I can give to someone. I genuinely enjoy watching them play basketball. And the person that leads that charge is absolutely SGA. Like there's no question to me on this. I think the one that I dropped the most is obviously Jalen Williams. Like, I just didn't see that coming, his development at all. Yeah. The card I want to talk about is actually the one that we spoke about on the undervalued list last week. It's the fast break bronze to 20. We didn't really talk about this at all. We just mentioned it. We just said, here is a card. The thing that we actually didn't mention, and we didn't deep dive into this at all, so this explains it a lot. So this last sold in 2019. There hasn't been another sale of this card in basically 5 years. It's sold for $70, numbered to 20. So whoever bought that, all I can say to you is congratulations. You've absolutely broken the system on Card Ladder in terms of undervalued cards because of that. If you go to PSA 10 though, one has sold more recently than that. It was last sold in 2022, and a PSA 10 sold for $1,600. So I probably suspect the person who bought that for $70 sent it off for grading at PSA. That would make sense. If that sold for 2 years ago for that much, that has to at least 3x by now.
At least
3x, right? Yeah.
Yeah, no, there's no...
So just really quickly going to the silver PSA 10, he is just absolutely skyrocketing at the moment. So if you go to the last month, he's up 24% in just 1 month. If you go to 6 months, he's up 43%. If you go to a year, it's 48% up. This is just an upward asset at the moment. Last sold for $930.
Yeah, the
Population
sale
on this
before
is
that it was sold for $1,100. Like it was, like
it's just going up like a bullet. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I suppose all the speculation on this is just that he's going to win MVP, isn't it? I can't really think too much more than that. Look, for me, the Silvers, this is a really tough purchase at the moment because I think what I'm going to steal from you a little bit here is the future pricing model that you talk about.
Yeah,
I think that's very much baked into this card. I think that if anything, card is just going to go down, and if he doesn't win MVP, you might see this card go down a lot to that sort of 700, 750 mark. Because probably in my head, that's the true value of it. Card Ladder actually values this at 934, so it's got no problem with the value on this at all. Yeah, look, as excited as I am about this card, I'm also very much like tread easily with it because we were talking about this card in the 500, the 600 mark, and we were saying the same thing. So I just feel like I can't really step away from that. Yeah. I think where you have to look for value with SGA is just at other cards. Look for patch autographs from his rookie year. Look at numbered cards. Look at raw cards that you can potentially send to PSA. Because that's also the problem for me with Silvers is that the population on this is 681, but you don't know what the final destination on this population is going to be.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. And you're right. The future pricing model that I do refer to quite frequently is what's the point of trying to pick up something? Like if you're buying for an asset to increase, and the price spike's already happened, you're not going to get that. Like the point of buying it's gone, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that we buy cards just to watch them appreciate, but if you pay with the future appreciation already added, what's the point?
Yeah, that's right.
It's it's a very dangerous way to buy cards, I think. Like
buying at the top, 100%.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and worst case scenario, he doesn't make the NBA Finals this year. They don't win a chip. He doesn't get MVP. The Thunder all of a sudden make a bad decision. They blow it up. SGA becomes what? Do you know what I mean? And I'm not like disaster prepping, but you've paid these overs in the lead up.
I think if you look at sort of big picture on this guy, I think he's still pretty safe.
Of course,
but he's not particularly injury prone. He's still pretty young. The team is very young around him. I think what the real issue is it's just the price where you're currently buying in at, as opposed to buying into him as a prospect. So,
Agreed.
Most improved player. Who have you got for most improved?
LeBron James. He is the most improved 40-year-old. So
categorically, I can tell you he's not even listed on the odds. So we've got Norman Powell, Cade Cunningham, Tyler Hero, Christian Braun, Evan Mobley. I don't pick any of those top five at all. I think Evan Mobley is fantastic, and I think it's great that we're giving him some props. For me, Tyler Hero is not the most improved player just for the fact that he's already had all this talent there. And same as Cade Cunningham. This guy's the number one overall pick. Like, I don't think it's fair to say someone's injured.
But
it's good to give them some respect. Like, the Pistons have been a good news story this year, but for me, that's nothing. Norman Powell, I like. But I think if we're being realistic, how is Jalen Williams, Jalen spelt E-N, not I-N, the good Jalen Williams on the Thunder, how is he not listed for most improved? Like, that's some nonsense. So he's down all the way down here at $67. So that's below Evan Mobley, Eamon Thompson, and then Jalen Williams. Dyson Daniels is below him. Like, the ones that I'm interested in are actually all the way down the bottom. Jalen Williams, Dyson Daniels, Max Christie gets a mention there at $91. Like, I don't know. Look, Norman Powell, that makes sense. That's fine. We can give that guy some props. But I think we talk about Jalen Williams. Population on this is 626. Last sold for 153. Look, the more that I watch the Thunder, and I think I was talking about this guy, I was a little bit unsure. Is this a good buy? Is it not? I'm actually thinking now this is a really good buy. This kid is talented. I still think he's got more in the bank there. And the funny thing is about Chet is, in my head, I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure Chet's going to be the number two. I'm actually not too sure about that anymore. I think Jalen Williams is going to be that number two. He's just really skilled. And the funny thing about Chet is I actually think he's going to be a bit of a tweener. He's too big to play three. he's like a little bit clumsy to play the 3, but he's not big enough to play the 4, and I think he's going to get his ass kicked against 5s.
Probably.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
And while I love him, I think he's a good player and he's fun. He's got a good personality, all that stuff. I just think Jalen Williams fits into the league really well at the moment, just the way the league is going and the way the Thunder play too. So, look, I could be wrong about that. I've been wrong about heaps of stuff lately, but
I don't know. It's interesting to speculate on though, for sure.
Yeah, who have you got for most improved, man?
I had Cade. I think I think Cade deserves the flowers there, but
yeah.
You've got a point with him being an overall number 1, but he hadn't been playing like a number 1 pick, so he's improved to the standard that is expected of him. And I do think Norman Powell's a good.
Can I push back on that though? Like, how much bad Pistons did you watch?
I just looked at the box scores more than anything.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So, and I kind of feel like the people who make these awards are probably about the same thing. Like, if we're being honest, right? It's like the Los Angeles thing. It's like, if you just watch ESPN and Sports Center
earlier in the season, and I was saying that this is that breakout year spike. You're right, because last year we weren't talking about Ant being.
But no one wanted
most
like
improved,
the Pistons.
right?
Like the Pistons were terrible last year. Like people weren't watching them. It's like, okay, now they're good and they're really good this year. Like they're a tough out this year. If you don't turn up to play, the Pistons are going to eat you.
Yep, yeah, they're currently 6th in the East.
And they will hurt you. They are tough, and they run at you, and they have got good motors.
They will run with you all day. That's the thing.
Yeah, and they keep going, and they're strong underneath, and Cade is a strong lead guard. Like they've got a lot of good things going for them. But I think my point is like, actually, how much improvement has Cade made, or is it just that now we're paying attention to Cade? I think that's probably my counter argument to all of this.
Yeah.
Really quickly, Cade Cunningham, pop 322. Last sold for $375. He's up. If you look at his graph, he's just going all the way up. Yep. So the last 3 months, he's up 41%. The last 1 month, he's up 15%. The last year, he's up 101%. So he's basically doubled in the last 12 months. Really good buy if you got him down at the bottom there. So
yeah, some positive movement on Cade, which I'm very happy with.
Yeah.
Any other awards? Probably one more award, and then we tie it off. We've got Rookie of the Year. Is there a race for Rookie of the Year?
I mean, the bookies are taking numbers on it. Is there an actual race? I'm not too sure. So just looking at the odds, Stephon Castle's number 1 at $1.48, and the next closest is at $6 is Jalen Wells.
Okay.
We got
Wells.
We got Ware at $9. We've got Ricochet at $11. To be honest, I probably like him long term the most. And then Alex Sarr. And Sarr's been playing a lot better lately. He's actually beginning to look like an NBA player. I think at the start of the year, it was a little bit dicey with that guy. But look, I mean, the guy that I like is Zach Edey. He's at $12. I think from a 1 year sample size, yeah, fair enough. He's down there. But long term, I think Edey's just going to be a beast in this league.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yves Messi's been injured. Dalton Connect's at $51. I'm kind of glad that's the case, actually. Like, yeah.
Pre-trade, post-trade? The thing is, I don't
there's
know.
Nothing much that really takes my fancy, honestly.
Wells, I'm very much I was on board with Wemby. So Wemby's group. So the Spurs were winning. Stephen Castle was looking great.
Yeah.
But now Wemby's out, do the Spurs start to look, ordinary? And I'm like, if it's you've got Wells and Castle,
yeah.
Do you go for the rookie that's impacting a team that's in the top half of their draw in their conference? It's hard to be.
I think the performance does matter
but he's a solid performing rookie. On where are they sitting? Are they third or are they second in the West?
Team performance matters. I think that 100%. But I would say if you're looking at the least amount of team performance when you're factoring in an award, I think the Rookie of the Year is the one that you disregard that the most.
Yeah,
and
then
so
I give it to Castle.
Yeah. So if that's the case, and I think that's
Castle,
reasonable because most good guards are going to bad teams. Like I think that's the narrative there, right? Like,
of course.
Yeah. I think if you're being realistic though, like Castle wasn't really a top pick.
Yeah.
There was guys that went far ahead of him.
He's a strategic pick, and the Spurs have done it again. Like he's
The Spurs are just a good. They're just a good team. It's as simple as that.
Yeah,
All right.
definitely.
What do you want to finish the show on, Ad? We can't finish it on gambling odds. This is not really our jam.
Well,
it's just something that we led into.
we go with a couple of we go with a
We've got a
notable
Tim
sale.
Duncan card here. Why don't
Yeah,
we finish with Tim D?
yeah,
that would make
perfect.
me really happy. This is a eye-catching sale from Card Ladder. The Fleer Mystique, Film at 11, top story, PSA 7. This sold for $27,000. This warms my heart on so many different levels. It's a very niche card.
Yeah.
It's from a set that's not particularly that well chased in terms of Fleer. It's from a player that is generally regarded not as a hobby darling. I'm all aboard this. I love this a lot.
Hobby darling, love it.
No one cares about Tim Duncan, man. Like, Tim Duncan's got a better resume than, I would argue, Shaq and Kobe, and you can buy Duncan rookies for much cheaper than Kobe.
No, I
significantly, right? Yeah. People love Kobe.
I
Donald
agree.
Trump loves Kobe. That's our second
is that our,
political.
We can close.
Let's
that
finish
out
the show on that, man. Yeah, so there's going to be a Kobe Bryant statue in the garden at the White House. There's a bunch of other athletes that's going to be there.
American heroes, sport heroes is going to
very
be
good. Thanks, man. Yeah, Muhammad Ali, Jackie Robinson's going to be. There's a couple of other guys in there too. So I think huge props to the sport-loving U.S. government for giving Kobe
Bryant some props with the statue.
Just being objective, though, do you think that was the right choice?
Kobe.
Yeah. Why not Bill Russell? Why not Jordan? Why not Dr. J? Why not Magic Johnson?
I think the recent passing of Kobe is the reason.
Like a respect type thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's a way to honor the Bryant family. It's a he brought a lot to the game and gone too soon in our eyes. That would be my reasoning for it. Yeah, definitely.
Well, guys, thank you so much for listening. We're going to end today's show here. Don't forget to tune in to our segment called Timeless Moments that will also be in your podcast feed. If you're listening for some radio tunes, we're on Central Coast Radio 3 days a week. Go to centralcoastradio.com. Shout out to Pretz X. You are our winner from our YouTube promotion. Please contact us on any social media platform, YouTube. I don't know if you can message people on YouTube, but Instagram or Facebook, Twitter too, if you prefer.
Reach out to us and we will organise that box.
Thank you for a great episode, Adam. Thank you for your patience.
Pleasure as always. And don't forget that those timeless moments, they will be up on YouTube on Wednesdays.